This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, we're going to be doing a show on AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, that is one of my favorite. We've done it before. And we need to do it again. It's not that things keep changing in virtual assistant land. It's that authors keep changing. And that authors, one, sometimes don't recognize the need that maybe they might be able to use a virtual assistant or a VA. And two, what I've learned, and this is also through my own experience, because I've been using virtual assistants for a few years now, that the first year I didn't use them well because I didn't know what I needed to do. And if I'd had the conversation that we're going to be having with my favorite virtual assistant, Kelly Johnson, that we would been far more efficient in the use of my time and certainly my money. Yep. So today's show is all about virtual assistants. Do you need one? How do you find one? How do you use them most effectively? How do you identify what needs you really need? And lastly, really, what can you do when working with them to expand what your needs are that you didn't realize you needed and maybe they didn't know that they could do? How's that sound, Kelly?
That sounds great to me.
Right. So welcome, Kelly Johnson, the author's virtual assistant. She's also located in Colorado, my home base. So I get to see her in person, which is a lot of times you need to understand virtual means virtual. Most virtual assistants are remote and you don't have face-to-face and one-on-one time. Now, people who I know work with Kelly here in Colorado do get to do often a face-to-face. Mm-hmm. And then basically, if I'm right, Kelly, it's taken on that it moves into really a remote relationship from then on. Is that about right?
Yes, for the most part, that's true.
Yeah, and my experience for everyone is I found that a lot of virtual assistants work in the wee hours of the night when the phones aren't ringing. So when you may be snoozing. So this is all about virtual assistants and how to get rid of the author overwhelm that we all have. All right, so let's just jump in, Kelly. Let's describe what a virtual assistant is and let's get into that.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to briefly say thank you for inviting me back on the show. It's always a pleasure to be here. So just wanted to thank you for that. And obviously I'm excited about today's topic since I am a virtual assistant and always appreciate, whatever information I can help to share or, like you said, help people who are working with a VA or deciding to work with a VA, how best to utilize the skills that we have and what we can bring to your, books and business. So as you mentioned, what is a virtual assistant? Essentially, we are assisting small business owners and entrepreneurs for the most part. Sometimes it could be a larger organization, really just to help manage and administer the different tasks and projects that you have for your book and business. And depending on the skills of a virtual assistant, that could be anything from different technology projects to helping you schedule, calls and appointments, to helping you make some marketing materials. It just depends on some of what your business needs might be, which I know, Judith, you and I will kind of get into a deeper discussion about that. And obviously the work happens virtually or remotely. So either, by phone, computer, that's primarily where the tasks take place.
And that really does take it. So and it is mostly by computer. And that and I will tell everyone also, this disclaimer, I actually have two virtual assistants I work with, Kelly, who is the queen, and then I have a woman who works full time for me in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And Kelly actually said, well, let's just test it out. remember that conversation, Kelly?
I do.
Let's just do testing out. And it's turned out to be a very strong, wonderful relationship that we've had. And Leah has created all kinds of goodies for me through the past that I haven't even thought about. So let's just get into that. And so we've got a virtual assistant. All right, Author Overwhelm. What can you relieve my pain of?
Yes.
I mean, isn't that the question you all have listening? Isn't it, what can you take off my shoulders? And I think maybe there's another question, Kelly, we need to deal with. What are you willing to take off your shoulders?
And I think that's great that you added that second question as well. What are you willing to let go of? Because I think, once again, as I shared, it's primarily, small business owners and entrepreneurs, that virtual assistants that we're working with, that we get sometimes so caught up as, business owners and solopreneurs that we think we have to have our hand in absolutely everything that goes on with our business. And while that's true to a certain extent, we want to oversee everything that's going on because it is our business and our brand, and we want to make sure the message that's going out is accurately reflecting what we want people to know about us, that you really don't need to be doing all of it, and you need to really look at focusing your time on what you feel you're good at and what you really don't need to be spending your time on. And sometimes that can be really hard to like you said, to let go. What are you willing to delegate? Because we tend to be a little worried, well, can I trust the person, this virtual assistant I want to work with, to help really support my business, my brand, and get the message out there that I want? And I think as you have those conversations, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, when you're initially wanting to work with a VA, that's definitely some of the discussion that you want to have, making sure that what's being handled accurately reflects the message you want to get out there.
And sometimes if you develop that relationship, I know this has certainly been my experience, that I love quotes, and I have actually my book, Snappy, Sassy, Salty, is all quotes. my quotes, not other people's quotes, yes. My quotes. Kelly and I have a couple of favorites in it.
We do.
And
and you know which one I'm thinking about right now, too.
Oh, yeah, I'll just go ahead and tell everyone. It's wake up. It's wake up, kick ass, repeat. Don't you love it? Okay, so anyway, I think that's on page 79. But that the thing is that what Leah came to me and she said, hey, why don't we put these in posters? And we created a poster for every quote that is in my book. Now, what do we do with those posters? We post them on social media. They're not all over my website. They're not, in fact, they're not there at all. They're what we do is we use those just for engagement, just as gooses, just for different things, just, from things, quotes about marketing, quotes about author success, quotes about working with social media. I mean, I'm talking about for me, what I do as a book shepherd. So they're all tied in me. What about what you can do as a expert? And Kelly's talking about your branding. What can you do where you can take some of your little isms or things that you're known about, or you want to start creating, that you could turn into a poster using either something like PicMonkey or Canva. Kelly and I like both those tools that you can use to take and convert so they have some visual attractiveness to them, and just start popping them out, whether it's a Facebook posting and you can add on, additional information, or just you want to keep your presence out there. And here's what's really gorgeous about start you building up this inventory is that you can go away for 2 weeks, and cruise the Mediterranean, and you could have something going up every day that your VA could be posting for you, something every day, and no one will know that you are, sipping margaritas somewhere.
And I love the example that you just gave, Judith, about, with Leah doing the graphics, of your quotes so they could be shared on social media, because that's another piece of kind of tying in what we're talking about delegating and looking at different skills or tasks that VAs can offer, where for some of my clients, that's exactly what I do as well. I'll create those graphics, help, to get that shared out on social media. And then in this aspect, with the work you and I do together and what Leah does, we were able to have that discussion where she created those great graphics. Then we could look, you and I, at a technology piece of, okay, how can you expand on those graphics? Let's go ahead and have you record some of those tips or quotes, make some audio recordings, and with that graphic, you can also post that up on your Pinterest account. And I still love your example of after I taught, Audio Boom, and you sat down and you created 15 audio recordings of your quotes. Leah went ahead and shared those with the graphics she made up on your Pinterest, and within an hour you had 112 new followers. So I love that we can also, once again, look at the different skill sets and what VAs are offering and how we can still make that all tie together and really focus on that to get the results you want.
Exactly. And here's an example. Kelly, I said, what do you think if I do this?
Exactly.
And this was just this week.
Yes.
This week that we have the Chinese New Year coming up, the Year of the Rooster.
Yes.
And I said, Leah, we need a new sign. We need to, cheer for our Chinese colleagues. And she immediately created a poster with using what we call the sheepy guy, one of my branding images, and who's all dressed in Chinese garb. And, of course, red and gold is used, very important.
Absolutely.
And now we have the Year of the Rooster. And what she did is we've got the 2, and the O is the rooster, and then 17. So there's all kinds of things that you can do that now for me, if I had to do this, I bet you if you had to do it, you're talking about a bunch of hours.
Yes.
Okay? So I can turn it over to somebody and go out and do other stuff that I need to do. Exactly. That's what the virtual assistant will do to you and for you.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Kelly, what are some of the top mistakes that you find that people have used? I've shared mine that I didn't know how to really use them, and I'll tell everyone I didn't know what to let go. So I kind of I engaged them and I was paying them, but I was kissing off money and doing it until I really got what I wanted to. So maybe what we ought to do is before we jump in on the mistakes, maybe we ought to jump into some questions that you might want to be asking. And I think the most important one would be, in my opinion, is what can't you stand to do?
Right, exactly. No, and that is a very important question. Like you said, sometimes that's not something that automatically might come to mind that you would think to ask a VA, because as you said, you're kind of trying to take that assessment for yourself and say, okay, you know what? I've come to the point. I'm ready to start delegating. I'm willing to turn some of these tasks over. So you're focusing on that list that you've created for yourself of, okay, this is really what I want to take off my plate. But as you mentioned, it's really important to also ask the VA, because as much as we want to make sure we're supporting your business and the tasks that you want to delegate, some of what you have on your list either might not be in that virtual assistant's skill set, or very important, as you just said, Judith, it might be a task that VA does not enjoy doing. And that's really, once again, about working together in this collaborative partnership, that we want to try to make sure we're both focusing on what our strengths are to be able to get to the result that you want. So it might not be possible to find a VA that can handle absolutely everything that you want to delegate at once. You might feel that the majority of the tasks you have, if one VA can handle that and that's kind of where you want to start, then great. Otherwise, you can do what Judith and I were just talking about. You could have 2 or 3 different VAs working, for you and with you to see, okay, I want this VA to go ahead and handle these tasks because that's what they enjoy doing, that's their skill set, and so on and so forth. So that's one place to start. And I think the other, as you said too, Judith, how can you really effectively use a VA? A lot of people are, once again, focusing initially on, okay, these are tasks I'd like to delegate, so let me just start having some VA work on these and handle them for me. But the other piece of it that I also really appreciate about being a VA is you can also utilize us to talk about strategies, what kind of goals, what, new services or systems do you want to put into place. And because we're small business owners as well as virtual assistants, we absolutely understand where you're coming from, and we can help to have those discussions and, be a partner in that collaboration as well, and really talk about ideas, or we can share some ideas with you that you might want to implement so you can kind of take it to that next level as well. And I think some people forget that they can sort of step up and have that aspect of the relationship with their VA.
Got it. All right. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come back and really get into this step-by-step process of going in. And I know that I'll share with you all that when I first decided, okay, I'm going to do this, I actually put together not a resume, but a query thing of this is what I'm looking for.
Yes.
And I think it's really important, especially if you're considering having a virtual assistant who is not domestically, meaning in the United States based. It's absolutely critical. All right, we'll be right back. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Every picture tells a story, and it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
One of the most important decisions you will ever make is your choice for printing your book. You are choosing a company which will be responsible for guiding you through the process and printing your book at a level of quality and detail that embraces your personal and creative needs. You want to choose a company that when your book finally arrives, you are delighted and ready to move on to the next level, and one that is customer focused. Choose King Printing Company and Addy Books to be that company that brings you to the next level. Go to kingprinting.com or call 978-458-2345 and ask for Tom Campbell.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so you decided to make the lunge. and that you're going to get some help. You're going to get some help in doing that. So I guess the first thing, Kelly, I'd like to kind of throw on the table is the cost of a VA. Mm-hmm. What do these animals, what's the range that we're looking at, maybe?
Sure. So typically the range for the cost of a VA, it's going to actually depend on a few factors. One will be where that VA is located, because that VA has to take into consideration cost of living, the skill set a VA has, maybe number of years sometimes as well that they've had their practice. But for an hourly rate, it's going to range anywhere from probably about $40 up to maybe about $65 an hour. That's kind of the rough range per hour. Some VAs will only have an hourly rate. Others will also have a retainer rate where if you go ahead and say you want them to reserve X number of hours for your projects every month, they'll have a set fee that will be charged. Some VAs will also offer both an hourly and a retainer, which is what I do. One thing to be aware of with the retainer rate is it's just like any other service if you have a retainer with somebody. Any hours that are not used within that month do not roll over into the next month because you're asking that virtual assistant to hold those hours, for you. So that's just something to take into consideration when you're looking to see how much time you might want to have a VA spend on your projects.
I am so glad, Kelly, you brought that up because I had this discussion with a couple of authors here locally that I had referred to for VA assistance.
Oh, yes.
And what they didn't get, but I only used them 3 hours, and I said, I don't care.
Right.
You committed to 7 hours a month. You're paying for that.
Exactly.
Because they can't sell their time because they've committed to you. Yes. And you commit to them. So get over it, buck it up, and send the money.
But no, I'm glad, and thank you for sharing that because that is an important point for people just to realize.
Yeah, it's critical to understand that time is money, including yours. But when you engage other people for your assistance, you need to really get it together, people. All right.
Exactly.
All right. So money can range. So that's domestically the dollar range rate in the U.S. is what?
Oh, for the hourly rate, it'll be usually roughly between like 40 and 65 an hour.
Okay, so if we go overseas, now that's when it changes dramatically, right?
Yes, that's correct. And once again, I don't have a lot of data about that, but it probably will be a fair amount less per hour, just once again because of different countries and what those VAs decide they want to charge, or if you're going through maybe a particular service that you found that they have a team of VAs that is working for that company.
Mm-hmm. And yes, so if they work with a company, I'm going to tell you that it's always going to be an overcharge. It'll probably be at least double. It could be double. It could be triple, quadruple even what this virtual assistant makes, depending upon. And I've actually experienced this. Or if they're soloists and they work on their own, it will be a lot less. But Kelly did say something that's very important, and you can do some exploration very quickly. All you have to do is Google and do what the average hourly or income for a virtual assistant in fill-in-the-blank country, okay? Whether it's India, the Philippines, Malaysia, China, wherever you're looking. So you can get that. So you need to understand what you have to negotiate here a little bit.
Yes.
So, okay? All right?
Absolutely.
And now, one of the things that I was going to share is that when I went out, I actually had a 2-page letter that I'd put together of what I was looking for. I wanted for what the term of the engagement was.
Yes.
And I was looking for someone full-time, so I put 40 hours a week. And actually I had a minimum. I needed at least 40 a month, preferably 40 a week.
Yes.
That I had personal qualities that I wanted. And one of them was that they are going to love working for me.
Yes.
And of course, if you're not lovable, you may have a problem here. So you have to treat people pleasantly and nicely.
Yes.
That I really needed someone who needed to be organized and systematic. For example, I had a VA who came back very quickly and reminded me just before we came on the air today that saying that, Judith Briles' Book Publishing Unplugged is coming up in June. When would you like to start promoting it on social media? I love that.
Yes.
I love that. she is tuned into my calendar and what I'm doing. She knows she's been trained now that I have certain things that articles are due for other people that I write for. She reminds me, and she just bullet points me when it goes along. Now, she didn't get that on her own. I had to tell her, but she now calendars everything. So that you want someone who's detail. I needed someone with certain skills. I wanted them to be available on Skype with me. My VA is available from Skype from 6:30 Mountain Time in the morning until 2:30 every day.
Yes.
Every day I can communicate with her.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted her to be able to go into my blogs and my website and post all my blogs and move things around and do things like that.
Yes.
And when necessary, to communicate with other people on my team, like Kelly.
Yes.
So she goes over she tracks all my social media. If anyone's posting on Facebook or any of that, immediately it's copy pasted to me so I can respond, and she goes up and puts it back up. So see what she's done is she's taken off me that I don't get involved in what I call the Facebook suck.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm diddling around and playing around in there.
Exactly. And one point I just wanted to make about what you were saying, Judith, to piggyback on that, is that's the other thing I know for myself as a VA that I really appreciate is, of course, when you're first starting out in this professional relationship, we're both getting to know each other's, working, systems and what we want to put into place. But as Judith was just outlining beautifully, when you have a chance then to start working with each other, then as a VA, that's what I try to also do as well. I look at what can I help to make suggestions or start looking ahead for a client, or because I've had that time to get to know, that client and their business, and I can try to start helping and saying, let's look ahead. Here's a reminder. Here's what I can start putting into place. That really makes for a nice long-term collaboration that you can really start to see you're syncing together and really taking it once again to that next level.
Exactly. So it's a getting to know you, but what you do have to put out is if they need certain skills, if they need to be able to tap dance through Excel because of certain work you do,
exactly,
or they need to be really hot on integrating Macs with PCs or whatever, or certain programs, you need to put it right up front, or you have to put it right up front that you need to learn this in an X amount of time.
Yes, and actually one other point about that too, just in looking at difference, like you said, domestic versus, working with a VA in another country. What I love is you said, Judith, you made a specific list of tasks that you knew this is what you wanted help with. The other part to think about too is communication, and by that what I mean is if you want the VA to communicate with a client's client, so to speak, or the people that they're interfacing with, that I know sometimes you want to make sure if, English might be a barrier, that's where you might want to work with a couple of different VAs because of just, verbally, if you need your VA to make calls to your own clients and you just want to make sure how they're expressing themselves and how they communicate professionally, that's another skill set to look at as well to see how you want to have that handled.
Yes. And also I put on my personal qualities that she or he had to be able to spell and knows grammar using American English.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The difference between British English and Indian English and any of the other, English-speaking countries because of the cultural factor.
Absolutely.
So those are just little things that I did. But I've had her, and then there's a webinar that I may have come across. I will actually send a link saying I want you to watch this and study it, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's I don't expect her to do that on her time outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of her 40-hour week. That's part of it. So lots that you can do.
Absolutely. That's right.
In the process.
The possibilities are endless.
The process, it is endless what you can do, and then I think you should be open for surprises. And if it's not working, it's not working.
Yes.
But one thing I have learned, unless you've got someone who is really good, is and as I think maybe more domestically based, that I wouldn't I wouldn't have them try to write my blogs.
Right.
Or anything else. I mean, there is a different language side,
yes.
and you better make sure that what you're putting out is truly your voice.
Yes, absolutely.
It's critical for that. So, but I can't imagine not having a VA. That's the bottom. For me, that's the bottom line on that. So, all right. So, Kelly, mistakes. We're gonna take a break here in about 2 minutes, but I want to go start into some of the top mistakes that you have consistently see that not VAs make, but what authors make in working with VAs.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
We got it.
All right. So I'm ready to hear it. Go ahead and start. We'll take.
Okay. So basically, as you said, so just maybe mistakes or just things to kind of be aware of just in working, with a VA. When you're starting this professional collaboration, as Judith and I have been trying to really, emphasize and highlight as well, it's important to have some of those initial conversations. And by that, I mean just even scheduling some time where you talk a little, bit with each other, find out a little bit more about each other's backgrounds and, talk about some things of how you want to start this relationship. How often do you want to communicate? Sometimes I know we're so anxious to jump right in, both parties, the VA and the client, with getting tasks done that, just make sure that you do take that time to, start to have that initial conversation to literally get to know each other so that you can have that as a good starting point. So just, make sure you have that as well. And just the other piece, what we had mentioned briefly before, really think about, it's going to take a little bit of time to, start just working with some of the initial tasks and seeing how you work together and how you want to share updates with each other. But remember that as you get more in sync with each other and get that underway, as we said, think about other strategy sessions that you can talk about with your VA and what you kind of want to look at, implementing in the future, that you can have those type of discussions and really VA, truly is a part of your business and have that partnership. So those are just a couple of, initial things to, make sure you think about. Like we said, maybe not necessarily a mistake, but just something that you really are keeping in mind when you're starting this professional relationship.
Yeah, she or he is. And I've got a third one I'm going to add on, but I'm going to share that when we come back from our break.
All right.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. With me is Kelly Johnson, the author's virtual assistant, and you can find her at CornerstoneVA.com. We'll be right back.
This is Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on Your Guide to Book Publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you with a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Want to publish like a pro today? Well, then take a look at Ingram Spark, the only publishing platform that offers print and ebook services through a single source. Upload, edit, and manage titles all in one place. Take more control of printing costs with print on demand, and reach even more readers through one of the world's most extensive distribution networks. Built by independent publishers for independent publishers, Ingram Spark has everything you need to maximize your book's potential: color printing, ebook distribution, print on demand, global reach, and more. Start publishing with Ingram Spark today and see just how far your titles will go tomorrow. That's ingramspark.com.
Welcome back to Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so I left you hanging, right, with the third one. Here's one of the things that I've discovered is that either you may be like a puppy dog, you're so excited and enthusiastic and you want to dump everything on them at once, which is a mistake. I think that there is a gradual feed in, and I think it's a mistake to try to give someone brand new on your team a huge project without doing some baby steps along the way to get the feel of how you communicate, what's best. Even sensing, like, it's really important for me to be able to work with people that have a good sense of humor. Absolutely. And that we can play a little bit. And that, we, for example, this week we brought in a new intern in our offices. And Bobby, and I have 2 other people who work for me, actually 3 other people who work for me here. And Bobby came into my office and closed the door, and she said, "This is the best thing you've ever done." She was so great. Now, isn't that exciting to have a team member come in? And they're enthusiastically working back there. They're getting to know each other. I just said, "You guys, this is your first day. You just turn yourself loose here." But that's really, you need to get to know, period. So expect a few hiccups. It does happen. Yeah. It does happen. But start with baby steps and give them it could be a simple project that, I want you to, work on cleaning up my Twitter feed or something. Yeah. And see what spammers are in there and get those kind of people out of there. But I can really tell you that for my own VA that is overseas, one of her primary assignments is she is always monitoring that and cleaning up, and she monitors all my social media platforms, and I immediately know if there's any communication going on that needs my attention, and she gets that in front of me pronto. And that's because social media is so critical to what you do in your marketing as an author. Yeah. That's really important. At least for me, it is. So my 2 bits on that. All right. So Kelly, what kind of questions should a author be asking a potential VA? What kind of questions maybe I need to realize that. What kind of questions you wish that you would get asked that they don't ask you when you're doing the initial meet and greet?
No, and once again, great question there. Just a couple things that, as an author, like you said, some things that I appreciate if an author wants to ask me as a VA what I might be able to help do for them, would just be in looking at some of the services or software that they might have. If they just say, this is something I'm using, I really like it, do you have that knowledge or skill set? Are you willing to learn? I'm always willing to learn, but, sometimes just make sure, not to make the assumption of, jumping in and this is software that I have, let's, learn it right away, or, let's use it. I'm always happy to learn, but that's part of this relationship of working together of, let's see how it's functioning for your business. Is it really working well? And are we open to, looking at some different things if we need to make some changes? So like you said, Judith, I think having some of those initial conversations of, yes, let's see what you're doing, but are you open to, if we see that there's a better software or a service that might be serving your business better, let's look at maybe changing into that, in the future. So just kind of looking at some of the things of that nature that we might be able to assist with. I think another thing is really just expectations, making sure that you set those, right from the beginning. And once again, as a VA, having somebody not just make the assumption that, oh, you're a virtual assistant, so that must mean you're available 24/7. As much as we would like to be available as much as possible, we're just like everybody else. Just because we're virtual, there are certain hours that we, try to hold to, and we are not quite available 24/7. But just making sure that expectation is set as well.
Mm-hmm. So it started with, like, I have actually a 2-page written letter, saying, I put out, are you the perfect virtual assistant for me? And really what I needed, and including, I did want them to have a sense of humor. I did need to know them how to spell. I did need some availability to do some graphics thing, and to, there was several things that I needed to make sure that they could do that I felt were elementary for the type of work that I was doing. And all of you who are listening will have different things that will be on your essential and elementary list.
Yes.
So I would just put that, in my opinion, right up front in writing when you put it out, when you start your query response on that.
And in case this is a helpful tip too, Judith, one thing that I know a lot of people will say, okay, I'm ready, I want to work with a VA, but I'm really kind of struggling maybe with what I should delegate. And like you said, some people do very well as yourself where you already had an idea and you were able to make a list of specific tasks of what you needed help with. But one thing I try to offer this as a suggestion that people have told me has been really helpful is, just take 3 days in your week and just make a list of everything that you do for your business, no matter what that is. Like you made 2 calls to clients, you created a couple images, you wrote some blog posts, whatever that happens to be. And at the end of that 3-day period, rate those tasks that you made the list of. So a number 1 would be, this is a task I love doing, I really enjoy it. A number 2 is, it's okay, it's not my favorite thing, but I don't mind if I have to do it. And a number 3 is, if I never had to do this task again, I'd do the happy dance in my office. And I usually tell people, look at those 3s, because that's probably those tasks you find you continually procrastinate on, or you would feel a great weight off of your shoulders if you could delegate them. And that's usually a good place to start if you're struggling a little bit with maybe coming up with your own list of things you want to delegate.
Well, I know for Kelly, for a lot of authors, they will tell you marketing is my overwhelm.
Yes.
And I do get that.
Yes.
And dealing with the social media is the overwhelm. So I guess in those interview questions, or you're putting out that they need to be cognizant of social media.
Yes.
And so you need to find which platforms are you good at? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Is it Pinterest or whatever?
Exactly.
And this now ties it back to your own needs.
Yes.
Are if your audience hangs out on Facebook probably 98% of the time, they really need to know the ins and outs of Facebook.
Yes, absolutely.
And what tips and tricks are going along, and the latest and the greatest. Which, if anyone knows that they get an A+ for me. But
that's right, because as we know, Facebook likes to change things without notice.
Oh, God, I know it. I mean, it's like trying to keep track of the changes with Amazon now.
Exactly.
But, that it's really important to really understand that so this is where the direction has to come from you.
Yes.
Okay, so the direction has to come from you, but then they have to, and they can make a choice here. No, I don't want anything to do with Facebook. I hate it. Then they're the wrong person for you, if this is where you need to be doing hanging out.
Yes.
So, and that's always challenging and hard. I get that. So that you have it. All right, so we've got those things those 3 quadrants, and I think that last one that you gave, Kelly, was what would give you the happy dance, happy juice to get rid of.
Exactly. If you could get that off your plate and just dance around your office and not worry about it.
Exactly. All right, so let me give you some hints, and then Kelly, I'd love to have you. Maybe you can add in some juice, of maybe maybe we can do this. Let's say you have a webinar, and you're going to be doing a webinar, and that you want to let the world know about it. So how could a VA help get the word out and maybe add in?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part that you said.
What could a VA do to, as your experience as a VA, what could a VA do to ease the pain of maybe no one signed up yet, and maybe push out to get the word out? What kind of tricks, tips what you might suggest?
Oh, sure. So a couple of ideas with that might be, let's look at what is the main topic. What are you focusing on for that webinar that you are going to be instructing people about or giving them knowledge? Look at maybe for that client, what colleagues do they have that have a similar target audience, and if they have a blog or a newsletter, let's write, a guest article or a guest post, ask them, can we do this? And at the bottom, help work in there that you've got this, write a blog post or article about kind of the topic of the webinar and include toward the bottom, especially in a resource box for that, that you're hosting this, free or paid, whatever the webinar happens to be. That can help spread the word out. Once again, you can also look on social media, what we talked about, having some graphics created of like maybe 3 tips that you can relate to that topic of the webinar. Create some of those graphics and put a little bit of information out on social media to keep that momentum going, and have a link back when you post that image on social media of where they can find more information and register for this free webinar that you're offering, for example.
Excellent. And Kelly, you just gave me an idea. We're going to go to our next or final break, but
yes,
that I've got my big 3-day event, which I always love having you part of.
Thank you. I enjoy
gizmos and gadgets. But I'm going to have Leah create a whole bunch of graphics that we will go out to accompany the tweets and things with the right hashtags that will go out, that we will start using in our campaign to support, to welcome people along. So love that idea. All right.
Fantastic.
Great. So those are the kind of things, I start thinking about. We'll come up with a few more examples for you as we go along. We'll take our final break. It's AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing, Kelly Johnson, and how to engage, how to hire, and how to work with a virtual assistant to take care of the author overwhelm that all of us, I don't care who you are, all of us at some point in time, we hit that block wall. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems, you want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Okay, the block walls here.
That's right. We're going to knock, and how we can knock those blocked walls down.
Oh, yes. How do we eliminate the blocks? Whether they're little mini barriers and we can just kind of, jump over them, or how do we eradicate and just remove an entire wall that's there?
Yes.
And as I said, social media is often there. I gave an example of, we have a webinar, how can we do a push out? Kelly gave this through it, how, I'm going to create a whole bunch of special little graphics as we go along. And, I don't have time to do it. I actually don't have the skill factor to do with that. But Leia's been able to take my base guy and turns him into all kinds of things, whether he's going to need to be a Jedi Knight.
That's right. Exactly.
And take on the world, or we need to be a rooster for the Chinese New Year. All right? So we have all these things coming up. All right, so what can we do in that? So Kelly, what are some of the other common things that you see, whether it's a campaign or other areas that you've worked with clients that might have involved in the marketing realm that you've had to get out and do a special effort to besides the routine?
I think a lot, especially for me, since I focus on technology, that's where my area of expertise and where I really try to assist people. Mm-hmm. That sometimes, like you said, with marketing, looking at the aspect of, okay, I want to put this out there. We already talked about some of the ideas of how to get people to know about, as we said, going back to the webinar example. And sometimes I think what can help, or it holds people up, is, okay, I've got some of this technology, but how do I actually make sure that it's going to work, and what do I do to make sure everything's in place for that? That, once again, remember, as a VA, we can help to walk through that. We can run some tests. So, don't let some of those aspects of, you want to market, and one of it might be by holding, different webinars or different series of online courses. Don't let that fear of technology hold you back. Talk with your VA and see how best you can help, get that out there, and even do a couple of test runs together to make sure that you feel comfortable with it. So just some other things with marketing. Once again, word of mouth. That's one of the things I love about our author community, is how much we support each other, and see for authors that are in your genre, once again, have your target audience. See if there's, a one sheet that you could create that they might be willing to, share out with maybe some meetings that they conduct, or, different events that they might be hosting, and how you can, be a part of that, and you could do the same thing in return for them. So that could be another, marketing piece that you're looking at.
Absolutely.
So just, some ideas like that of, we're always willing to support each other, and how can we continue to do that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And here's something. We had a great meeting, so I'm going to throw it out to everyone.
Yeah.
We had a meeting in the AuthorU community on how to brag.
Yeah.
How to brag recently, and also about, which I'll tell you what my spirit thing is. I have gone in, and I'm in the process creating an entirely new author one sheet.
Yes.
And that one of my big takeaways was, absolutely I can say, I'm Dr. Judith Briles and I'm a book publishing expert, but that to really make that effective, the kicker that comes in, and I can add in, showing authors how to create books they never regret,
yes.
Or I'm a book publishing expert, delivering practical publishing guidance. I can add that. But here's the kicker. It's using numbers. So here's my takeaway came about, Kelly, was to come in with that, I'm the author of 35 books that have sold a cumulative 1 million plus in copies, been published in 16 countries, and created combined revenues of book sales and speaking fees exceeding $5 million. That gets people's attention.
Yes, you are a rock star.
Well, thank you very much. But that's, those are the kind of things. So the VA will come in and work with me, and we're developing that right now, literally, as you listen to this. So, and then that'll be put up on a PDF on my website. People, meeting planners can pull it down if they want to engage me to speak. I'm going to be speaking at a conference in March I'm looking forward to in Mexico.
Yes.
So those are the things that they can bring into play, just little ahas. The other thing is we had a LinkedIn, and Kelly's talking about the community, how critical it is to reach out. So I'd love, if you're on LinkedIn, go to LinkedIn and connect with me. One, be lovely. But two, scroll down to skills and endorsements and make sure you check the box for book publishing expert and book shepherd, book coach. Yeah. Now, here's why. I didn't know that I can make up my own boxes. I just thought I had to go with whatever LinkedIn did. And I immediately went in and eliminated a bunch of stuff LinkedIn just did and put in the book publishing expert and book coach, book shepherd, and move them to the top so people would see them. So go in and mark those. And you want to do this for yourself. Yes. And if you're working with a VA, have them create it for you and then start shouting it out and asking for support.
Exactly. And actually, Judith, one other idea just to come to mind since we're talking about marketing and different aspects of that, one other thought, too, is I know being at the beginning of the new year, I've been encouraging some of my clients to think about, like, the freebie that they're giving away as an opt-in into, like, their newsletter list or, blog subscribe list. Here's another, going once again using the webinar example. When you give a freebie away, it doesn't have to be that you keep that same freebie for the whole year, for example. You could go in and, especially if you're offering a webinar and you want to get more people to sign up, part of what you have as that download could be, when you submit your name and email, you'll get this, checklist. Once again, it could be, 5 tips that you're going to be relating back to the topic of your webinar. And you could have a link in there then on that freebie download how they can sign up for that webinar. So you could go in for that, month in particular, have that be kind of the push, and another way that you're relating the webinar and maybe getting more sign-ups. And whether they sign up for the webinar or not, you're still helping to build up your list of subscribers. So you could go ahead and utilize that, and then for the next month, you could change it to something else. So maybe if you're not offering a webinar monthly, maybe you're doing it like every quarter, you can always just kind of make those updates too, but that could be another way that you're helping to not only build your subscriber list, but helping to market, webinars or particular things that you're doing.
Well, and here's another idea since we're talking about the website, and the opt-in piece, which I'm a huge believer in doing, is that if you, and this is when Kelly's and my surprise one day when we were looking at my website. So I would suggest all of you that this is the new year, have a VA go through every page and check it out on your website. Is it working? Is it broken? Do you have links in there? That kind of thing. And secondly, and here's was the big snafu, and I'm not sure if we got it all completed or not, Kelly, or not, but you need to go through every page and make sure it has metadata with it.
Yes. And
we discovered there was a lot of I don't want to say crummy, fluky, incorrect. That's the right word. Incorrect data for each page. And what happened is the original person who designed the website just did a kind of, plain Jane.
Yes.
That was inappropriate. So the search engines, if your book is all about, if your page is all about speaking, if your page is all about whatever your expertise is, and it doesn't have those key words that tie in that the search engines are going to be gobbling up, you're in deep doo-doo. Because people may not be putting in your name in the search engine where it should be expert in raising dogs, something like that. So make sure that your metadata is all being checked out. That's a perfect job for a VA to take on, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And just for some listeners, in case you haven't had a chance to be familiar with metadata, what that refers to is for every page on your website and for all of your blog posts, and for the overall for your website. There are places either in the coding on your website or if you have a WordPress site, there are certain fields that you go in, and for each of those, your page, for example, you want to make sure you're listing the title, a description, and keywords, that you have that for every page, every blog post, and for your overall site. So that's what metadata refers to.
Yeah, and you're going to thank us with that little tip.
Oh, yes.
I like flowers. You can send flowers.
Or tea. Tea is always good.
Oh yeah, Kelly and I are tea drinkers, but I think that that's very important to understand. And I have to tell you, I was ignorant. I mean, I understand keywords and all that, but somehow I assumed wrong word for all of us to run by. I assumed that the web person who designed it had taken care of all that, and they took care of Zippo.
Correct.
So, very, very important.
Yes.
All right. What other tips, Kelly, for the new year that can we leave our listeners with that they could maybe do a little bit better for themselves here, or engaging? I mean, I'm hoping they're convinced. Get some help. You know what, everyone, you cannot do it all yourself.
Exactly. And yeah, maybe just another tip to think about is as you're making the lists of just tasks that you want to look at for this year to implement, really kind of keep in mind, let's break it down into segments and look at, let's say you have a list of 5 things initially that you're wanting to make sure get done this year. Name 1 or 2 of those as a priority, and then talk with your VA and say, let's focus on these, get this underway, and then let's go to the next couple of items on the list. Because I think one of the things, too, to make sure that we're all not continually feeling we're in overwhelm is it's one thing to delegate the task, but make sure you're not also feeling like, okay, we've got to implement everything all at one time, too. That have that good, steady pace of making sure you're focusing on a couple of things to get it to completion, get it all implemented, and then move on to the next item. So that might be a helpful tip as you're kind of planning out the year as well.
Right, and it also is that if you're having help, it doesn't mean that you have to know all the ins and outs and intricacies of how this, whatever the gizmo gadget is you're working
Exactly.
on. That. But you should have a conceptual understanding. I think that's important.
Yes.
On that, and take advantage of that. And the one thing, Kelly, you and I have not mentioned during our hour together, we just have actually a couple of minutes left, but is that the really necessity, if you're not ready to jump into a virtual assistant, is that you need to make sure that you have some type of social media management tool in your own personal bag of tricks, whether it's something like Hootsuite or Buffer or Edgar or any of the others. Kelly and I both have used Hootsuite because we've been using it forever. So we have a pretty good understanding of it. But that it's something that you're going to need if you're going to be your own VA. But if you're going to have a virtual assistant, you must have this in play because they'll be using it from their side.
Exactly. Those tools are very important, like you said, to help manage, your time, whether you want to do it specifically yourself or you're working with a VA, because we all want to be efficient and make sure that we're being as productive as possible.
Oh, exactly. So, and as we kind of come to a close here, I just want to remind everyone with Kelly Johnson. She is the author's virtual assistant. Her company is CornerstoneVA.com. And I would encourage all of you to, follow her blog, reach out and connect. She's on, the usual cast of culprits in social media, Facebook and Twitter and all those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you do want to do this because that you're after tips and tricks. For it. It's how, I know that people have always wondered about me if I sleep at all. Yes, I do. But that I get help and that I couldn't do what I do without getting help. And I can tell you when this show's over, I create 8 to 10 tweets about the show and I turn it over to my VA and then she takes it and pushes it out for the next several months so people can find it and listen to it. That's how we've built our stream. Not because I did it, it's because I have a VA joined at the hip with me. And with that, Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you. As I said, it's always a pleasure and a delight. I appreciate the invite back and always a joy to have these discussions and share this information.
You are so welcome. All right, everyone. Happy New Year. There's lots going on this month. Get it set up and get rocking and rolling in your writing and publishing success. I would encourage you to find a VA, put a list together of what you don't want to do, and you start there when you start releasing. All right. Have a great week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take you, the author, to the next level. You'll learn tips and secrets on how to create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve book publishing success by making one very simple change in your book's journey. How to avoid the publishing predators. How to create an author and book platform that rocks. Learn how to make a living with your words and your books. Learn how to publish a book that has no regrets, and so much more. For more information, check out AuthorU.org, where authors who want to be seriously successful go. And Judith's website, thebookshepherd.com. Then join us again here next week for more. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific,